A 5-year-old girl stares at the stranger crouching before her. "Are you our daddy?" she asks. The man's hands tremble. Her twin brother steps closer, gray eyes studying him carefully. "You left us," the boy says quietly. "Why did you come back?" The stranger's voice breaks. "Because I was dying, and I realized I'd thrown away everything that mattered." The children exchange a glance only twins understand. Before we dive in, comment where in the world you are watching from and don't forget to click subscribe. "You trapped me with this pregnancy," he accused. She vanished. 5 years later, twins called him Daddy. "You did this on purpose." Marcus Whitfield's voice cut through the restaurant like a blade, cold and sharp enough to make nearby diners turn their heads. Across the white tablecloth, Zara Mitchell sat frozen, her hand still resting on her barely visible belly, the pregnancy test results she'd just shown him now crumpled beside his wineglass. His gray eyes, the ones she'd fallen in love with during late nights at the architecture firm, now looked at her like she was a stranger who'd just stolen his wallet. "You trapped me," the words hung in the air between them, heavy and poisonous. Zara felt something inside her chest crack, not dramatically like glass shattering, but quietly, like ice splitting on a frozen lake. She'd imagined this moment 100 different ways over the past week. She'd pictured surprise, maybe fear, even anger at the timing. They'd only been together 8 months. But she never imagined this. The accusation in his voice that suggested she'd planned it, weaponized it, used her own body as a trap. "Marcus," Zara whispered, her voice barely audible over the restaurant's ambient music. "It takes 2 people to make a baby. We were careful, but nothing is 100%. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Careful? You told me you were on birth control. Now suddenly you're pregnant and what? I'm supposed to believe this is just an accident." His jaw clenched. "How convenient that this happens right when I'm being considered for partner at the firm. Right when my career is finally taking off." Zara's hands trembled as she pulled them into her lap. She'd worn her favorite dress tonight, the deep emerald one that Marcus always said made her eyes sparkle. She'd made a reservation at the restaurant where they'd had their first date. She thought maybe the familiar setting would make the news feel less scary, more like the beginning of something instead of the end. She was wrong. "You think I planned this?" Her voice gained strength, loud enough that the couple at the next table definitely heard. "You think I somehow orchestrated getting pregnant to what, exactly? Ruin your precious career? Trap you into a relationship?" Marcus leaned back, loosening his tie like it was choking him. "I think women do it all the time. I think you saw a successful man and decided to secure your future. You're a junior designer, Zara. I'm about to become partner. Do the math." The cruelty of his words hit her like a physical blow. This was Marcus, the man who'd brought her coffee every morning for 3 months before he finally asked her out. The man who'd held her when her father died last year, who'd sat with her through the entire funeral without once checking his phone. The man who'd told her 2 weeks ago that he was falling in love with her. Now he sat across from her, his handsome face twisted with suspicion, treating her like she was some kind of con artist. "I don't want your money," Zara said quietly, her throat tight. "I have my own career, my own life. I'm telling you about this baby because you're the father and you have a right to know. What you do with that information is up to you." "What I do?" Marcus's voice rose. "What choice did you give me? You made this decision for both of us." "No," Zara interrupted, her own anger finally surfacing. "We made this baby together. I'm making the decision to keep it because it's my body and my choice. You get to decide if you want to be involved or not. But don't you dare sit there and accuse me of trapping you like I'm some villain in your story." Marcus stood abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Every eye in the restaurant was now definitely on them. "I need time to think," he said, his voice flat. "This is too much. I can't deal with this right now." He threw $300 bills on the table and walked out without looking back. Zara sat there, surrounded by curious stares and pitying glances, her hand moving instinctively to her stomach. The waiter approached cautiously. "Miss, are you okay? Would you like me to call someone?" Zara shook her head, gathered her purse and the crumpled test results, and left. She made it to her car before the tears came. She cried sitting in the parking garage for 20 minutes, big heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Then she dried her eyes, started the engine, and drove home. She'd cried enough over Marcus Whitfield. She had a baby to think about now. The next 3 weeks were torture. Marcus avoided her at work, taking conference calls in closed offices when she walked by, leaving rooms when she entered. He didn't call. He didn't text. It was like she'd ceased to exist except as an obstacle to navigate around. Zara kept her head down, did her work, and tried not to vomit in the office bathroom where someone might hear and start gossip. Then came the morning she found the envelope on her desk. Plain white, her name written in Marcus's distinctive handwriting. Inside was a check for $50,000 in a single typed page. The letter was cold, formal, written like a business contract. He would sign away all parental rights in exchange for her agreement never to contact him or make any further financial claims. The check was a one-time payment to cover expenses. He'd already had his lawyer draw up the papers. All she needed to do was sign. Zara read it twice, her hand steady this time. She felt strangely calm, like she'd moved beyond hurt into some clear, quiet place where everything suddenly made sense. Marcus Whitfield was a coward. He was a man who ran from anything that threatened his perfectly planned life. She'd loved an illusion, and now that illusion had shattered. She could finally see clearly. She took the check and the letter, walked to Marcus's office, and knocked once before entering. He looked up from his computer, surprise flashing across his face. "Zara, I thought we agreed that communication should go through lawyers." "We didn't agree to anything," Zara said calmly. She placed the check on his desk. "I don't want your money, and I don't need you to sign away your rights because you never had any. Not really. Rights come with responsibilities, and you made it clear you want none of those." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I'm trying to do the right thing here. That money could help you and the baby." "The right thing," Zara repeated softly, "would have been to show up. To be scared but willing to try. To treat me like a partner instead of an enemy. But you know what? I'm grateful you showed me who you really are now instead of later. My child deserves better than a father who sees them as a trap." She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "One more thing. I'm resigning, effective immediately. I can't work here anymore. Not with you. Sarah Chen at Miller & Associates has been trying to recruit me for months. I'm taking her offer. You don't have to worry about running into me in the hallways anymore." Zara walked out of his office, out of the building, and out of Marcus Whitfield's life. She cleaned out her desk that afternoon, said goodbye to the few colleagues she'd grown close to, and started her new job the following Monday. Sarah Chen was thrilled to have her and didn't ask questions about why she left so suddenly. When Zara started showing 3 months later, Sarah simply congratulated her and asked if she needed any accommodations. The pregnancy was harder than Zara expected. Not just physically, though the nausea and exhaustion were brutal, but emotionally. Every milestone, every ultrasound, every first kick, she felt the absence of someone to share it with. Her mother had passed away when Zara was in college, and her father's death last year meant she was truly alone. She had friends, of course, but it wasn't the same as having a partner, someone who was equally invested, equally terrified and excited. Then came the 20-week ultrasound. The technician moved the wand over Zara's belly, pausing, measuring, moving again. "Well," she said with a smile, "I hope you're ready for double the adventure. You're having twins." "Twins?" Zara sat up so fast the technician had to steady her. "Are you sure?" "Positive. See here and here. 2 heartbeats, 2 babies. Congratulations." Zara lay back down, staring at the screen where 2 tiny forms curled together. Twins. She started laughing, the kind of slightly hysterical laughter that comes when the universe decides your life wasn't complicated enough. Of course it was twins. Of course. That night, alone in her apartment, Zara made a decision. She would move. Not just to a bigger place, but away from the city entirely. Away from the chance of running into Marcus at the coffee shop they used to frequent, or the park where they used to walk. Away from memories and what-ifs. She had family friends in Portland, a city she'd always loved. She could transfer within Miller & Associates to their Portland office. she could start fresh. Within 2 months, Zara had relocated. Sarah was disappointed to lose her, but understood. Portland welcomed her with rain and possibilities. She found a small house with a yard, something she could never have afforded in Seattle. She made friends with her neighbor, an older woman named Delilah, who had raised 6 kids and thought twins were a blessing, not a burden. She prepared a nursery, took birthing classes, and slowly built a life that had nothing to do with Marcus Whitfield. The twins were born on a rainy March evening, 6 weeks before their due date. Zara was terrified they'd come early, tiny and struggling, but they were fighters. Amara and Aiden, 5 pounds each, with full heads of dark curly hair and lungs that proved they were more than ready for the world. Zara held them for the first time and felt a love so fierce it scared her. These were her babies. Hers. And they would never, ever feel unwanted. The first year was a blur of sleepless nights, endless diapers, and exhaustion so profound Zara sometimes forgot what day it was. But it was also filled with first smiles, first laughs, first words. Delilah helped when she could, watching the twins so Zara could shower or sleep for more than 2 hours straight. Work was understanding, letting her do part-time remote work until the babies were older. By the time Amara and Aiden turned 2, Zara had hit her stride. She'd been promoted to senior designer. The twins were in an excellent daycare 3 days a week. She'd made friends, joined a single mother support group, created a life that felt full and purposeful. Marcus Whitfield became a distant memory, someone she'd known in another lifetime. The twins never asked about their father, not at 2, not at 3. But Zara knew the questions would come eventually. She decided she would tell them the truth, age-appropriate truth when they were ready. That their father wasn't able to be part of their lives, but it wasn't because of them. It was never because of them. Years passed in the beautiful chaos of raising twins. Amara, bold and creative, who wanted to be a dancer one day and an astronaut the next. Aiden, thoughtful and curious, who built elaborate structures from blocks and asked questions about how everything worked. They were different but inseparable, finishing each other's sentences, sharing a bond that Zara envied and celebrated in equal measure. When they turned 4, the question started. Simple at first. Do I have a daddy? Where is he? Why doesn't he live with us? Zara answered honestly but gently. Your daddy couldn't be with us, but it's not because of you. Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices. You are so loved, always remember that. But as they approached 5, the questions grew more pointed. Doesn't he want to meet us? Did we do something wrong? Emma has a daddy who takes her to the park. Why can't our daddy take us? Each question was a knife to Zara's heart, because she had to find ways to protect them from the truth that their father had chosen his career over them, that he'd called them a trap before they were even born. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Zara was at work, in the middle of a presentation to a new client, when her assistant interrupted. I'm sorry to bother you, but there's a man on the line who says it's urgent. He says he's calling about your children. Zara's blood ran cold. The only people who would call about Amara and Aiden were the daycare or Delilah, and they had her cell. Who is it? She asked, already gathering her things, her mind racing through terrible possibilities. An accident, an illness, a stranger at the daycare. He said his name is Marcus Whitfield. Time stopped. The room tilted. Zara gripped the edge of the conference table to steady herself. After 5 years of silence, Marcus was calling about her children. The assistant handed her the phone with a concerned expression. Zara took it, her hand surprisingly steady despite the adrenaline now flooding her system. This is Zara Mitchell. Zara. Marcus's voice came through the line, older somehow, rougher than she remembered. I know I have no right to call. I know I gave up any right to contact you, but I need to talk to you. It's important. We have nothing to discuss, Zara said coldly, aware of her client and colleagues watching this unfold. You made your choice 5 years ago. I know, and I've regretted it every day since. Marcus paused, and Zara heard something in his voice she'd never heard before. Vulnerability. Fear. I'm in Portland. I've been here for 2 weeks trying to work up the courage to call. I saw you, Zara, at the park. I saw you with the twins." The words hit her like ice water. He'd seen them. He'd been watching them. The mama bear instinct rose up fierce and protective. "You stay away from my children," she said, her voice low and dangerous, no longer caring who heard. "You have no claim to them. You gave that up when you walked out of that restaurant." "I never signed anything," Marcus said quietly. "You never sent the papers. And I'm not calling to make claims. I'm calling to apologize, to tell you that you were right about everything, and to ask, not demand, but ask if there's any chance you'd let me try to make things right." 5 years too late, Zara said, but her voice shook now. "You don't get to waltz back into our lives because you suddenly decided to grow a conscience." "I know," Marcus's voice cracked, "but I'm asking anyway, because those kids, Zara, they're mine too. And I was a coward and a fool, and I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me because I was scared. I'm still scared, but I'm here, and I'm not leaving. Whether you let me see them or not, I'm staying in Portland, because they deserve to know I didn't abandon them, that I came back." Zara closed her eyes. The phone pressed against her ear, and felt the carefully constructed walls she'd built around her life begin to crack. "No," she whispered. "No, Marcus. You don't get to do this. Not now. Not after everything." She hung up before he could respond and stood there in her conference room, aware that every person was staring at her, that her carefully professional facade had just shattered in front of clients. "I need to reschedule," she said, her voice remarkably calm. "Family emergency." Her assistant nodded, already moving to usher the confused clients out. Zara walked to her office on shaking legs and closed the door. Then she sat down hard in her chair and let herself feel everything she'd been holding back. Rage at Marcus for disappearing, and then reappearing like he had any right. Fear that he would hurt the twins the way he'd hurt her, and underneath it all, a tiny, traitorous spark of something she didn't want to name. Hope? Number? Curiosity, maybe, about what had changed. About what could make a man who'd run so far suddenly decide to come back. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but she knew who it was. "Please don't block this. I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying in Portland. I have something I need to send you, a photo. It might help you understand why I'm really here. May I?" Zara stared at the message for a long time. Every instinct screamed at her to block the number, to protect herself and the twins from whatever new devastation Marcus might bring. But another part of her, the part that had spent 5 years answering questions about their father, needed to know. What could possibly justify his return? What could possibly make this okay? Against every bit of common sense, she typed yes. The first photo came through within seconds. Marcus in a hospital bed, pale and gaunt, connected to monitors and IV lines, his skin almost gray. Zara's breath caught. A second photo followed. Marcus with a completely bald head, hollow eyes, but attempting a smile that looked more like a grimace. Then a third. Marcus with short hair grown back, still too thin, still bearing the marks of illness, but alive. Undeniably, miraculously alive. The text that followed was longer. "I had cancer. Stage 3 lymphoma. I found out 3 weeks after you left the firm. The same week I was supposed to sign those papers giving up my rights. I went through hell for 2 years. Chemo, radiation, a bone marrow transplant. There were days I wasn't sure I'd make it. Days I didn't want to. When I was finally declared cancer-free 8 months ago, the first thing I thought, the very first thing, was that I'd wasted my life chasing things that don't matter. And the second thing I thought was that I had children out there somewhere who didn't know I existed. Children I'd thrown away like they were nothing when they were everything. I've spent the last year tracking you down, building up the courage to reach out. I don't want your forgiveness. I just want a chance to meet them, to tell them I'm sorry, and to tell you that you were right about every single thing you said to me." Zara read the text 3 times, her hands trembling. Cancer. Marcus had cancer. The man who destroyed her had faced his own destruction. The universe had a cruel sense of irony. And now he was here, asking for something she didn't know if she could give. A chance. She didn't respond that night, or the next day. She picked up the twins from daycare, made dinner, gave them baths, read bedtime stories, and did all the normal evening things, while her mind spun in circles. On the third evening, as she watched Amara and Aiden play in their backyard, their dark curls bouncing in the golden evening light, their laughter filling the air like music, she thought about the questions they'd been asking. Do I have a daddy? Doesn't he want to meet us? And she thought about what she would tell them someday about their father. She'd always planned to tell them the truth, that he'd been scared, that he'd made a terrible mistake, that his absence wasn't their fault. But what if the truth could be different now? What if he'd been scared but found courage? What if he'd made a mistake but was trying to fix it? What if his absence didn't have to be permanent? Zara picked up her phone and typed carefully, rewriting the message 3 times before sending it. The twins don't know about you. If, and this is a very big if, I agree to let you meet them, it has to be completely on my terms. Slowly, carefully, in public places. And the very second I think you're going to hurt them or disappear again, you're gone. Forever. No second chances after this. Do you understand? The response came immediately, like he'd been waiting by his phone. Understood. Thank you, Zara. I swear you won't regret this. I swear on my life I won't let them down. But as she put her phone down and called the twins inside for dinner, Zara wasn't sure if she was making the bravest choice of her life or the biggest mistake. All she knew for certain was that Amara and Aiden deserved the chance to know their father, even if that father didn't deserve them. They met 4 days later at a coffee shop Zara had chosen specifically because it was public, busy, and had excellent sight lines to all the exits. She arrived 20 minutes early, ordered a chai latte she couldn't drink because her stomach was in knots, and tried to slow her racing heart. She'd told Delilah where she was going, had her phone fully charged with emergency contacts ready, had rehearsed walking out at least a dozen times in her head. Then Marcus walked through the door, and the years collapsed. He looked the same but fundamentally different. Older, yes. Thinner, definitely, though he'd put some weight back on. But there was something else in his eyes, something that hadn't been there before. Humility. Grief. Gratitude. The cocky confidence that used to define him had been stripped away, leaving someone more real beneath. He spotted her immediately and walked over slowly, like he was approaching something precious and breakable. Zara, he said softly, stopping a few feet from her table. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving me this chance. Zara nodded, not trusting her voice yet. They sat in awkward silence for a moment, 5 years and 1,000 unsaid things filling the space between them. The coffee shop noise, the hiss of the espresso machine, the chatter of other customers, all seemed very far away. You look good, Marcus said finally. Healthy. Happy. I am, Zara replied, finding her voice. No thanks to you. He flinched but nodded, accepting the hit. I deserve that. I deserve much worse. He wrapped his hands around his coffee cup like he needed something to hold on to. I don't even know where to start. How about the beginning? Zara kept her voice level, controlled. You accused me of trapping you. You offered me money to disappear. You treated me like I was trying to ruin your life. You abandoned me when I needed you most. And then you just what? Found out you had cancer and suddenly had an epiphany? Marcus looked down at his coffee. Yes, that's exactly what happened. Not suddenly, though. It took time. A lot of painful time. The first few months after the diagnosis, I was angry at everyone and everything. Angry at you for getting pregnant. Angry at myself for getting sick. Angry at God or fate or whatever force decided my perfectly planned life should fall apart. Zara felt no sympathy yet. She waited, her face carefully blank. But somewhere around the second round of chemo, when I was so sick I couldn't get out of bed for days at a time, when I thought I might actually die, I started thinking about legacy, about what I'd leave behind when I was gone. And I realized I'd spent my entire adult life chasing things that meant nothing. Partnership at the firm? I got it, by the way, 2 months before my diagnosis, and when I thought I was dying, it felt completely meaningless. Did you tell anyone? Zara asked. About the pregnancy? About me? No, Marcus admitted, shame coloring his voice. I was too ashamed. Too proud. I told people I was taking extended medical leave for health reasons. I went through most of the treatment alone. My parents knew, my brother, but I swore them to secrecy. I didn't want anyone to see me weak. But you were weak, Zara said. You were weak when it actually mattered. When I needed you to be strong, I know. Marcus finally met her eyes. I know, Zara, and I'm sorrier than words can express. I was a coward. I was selfish. I convinced myself you were the villain in my story, because it was easier than facing that I was the villain in yours. You were brave, and I was a coward, and I've had 5 years to live with that. Zara felt tears threaten but pushed them back. Sorry doesn't give me back the pregnancy I went through alone. Sorry doesn't give me back the terrifying premature birth where I thought I might lose them both, and I had no one to hold my hand. Sorry doesn't give me back the first year of sleepless nights and fear and exhaustion. Do you have any idea what it's like to do that alone? To be solely responsible for 2 tiny humans when you're so tired you can barely remember your own name? No, Marcus said quietly. But I want to understand. I want to hear all of it, if you're willing to tell me. Not because I deserve to know, but because they deserve to have a father who understands what their mother sacrificed, who understands what you went through because of my cowardice. And something about that, about him acknowledging it wasn't about him anymore, cracked something open in Zara's chest. She took a shaky breath and began to talk. She told him everything. About the difficult pregnancy, the complications with twins, the emergency cesarean at 34 weeks, about holding 2 tiny babies and being terrified they were too small, too fragile, that she would somehow break them. About the first year that nearly broke her instead. The endless nights of crying, of not knowing if she was doing anything right, of feeling completely alone in the world. She told him about Amara's fierce personality that emerged immediately, how even as an infant she demanded attention and wouldn't be ignored. About Aiden's quiet observation, how he watched everything with those serious gray eyes that looked exactly like Marcus's. She told him about their first steps, their first words, the way they developed their own language that only they understood. About starting kindergarten next fall, and how excited and nervous they both were. Marcus listened without interrupting, and as she talked, tears ran down his face unchecked. When she finally finished, her throat raw from talking, he said hoarsely, I missed everything, everything that matters. Every moment I can never get back. Yes, Zara agreed simply. You did. So you need to understand that if I let you into their lives, this isn't about you. It's not about your guilt or your redemption or your second chance. It's about them. They're 5 years old, Marcus. They're at the age where they notice everything, where they compare themselves to other kids and realize they're different. They're starting to ask hard questions about why they don't have a daddy like other children do. I want to be their daddy, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. I know I haven't earned it. I know it might take years. But I want to try. I want to show up every day and prove that I've changed. That I can be the father they deserve. They sat in that coffee shop for 4 hours. Marcus told her about the cancer in detail, about the treatments that made him wish for death, about the bone marrow transplant that saved his life. He told her about the day he was declared in remission and realized he'd been given a gift he didn't deserve. He told her he'd left the architecture firm, that he was doing freelance work now designing small residential projects instead of corporate buildings, that he'd moved to a smaller apartment, sold his expensive car, started living a simpler life because he'd learned the hard way what actually mattered. He told her about therapy, about spending the last year working through his fear of commitment, his pattern of running from difficult things, the childhood wounds that made him see love as a trap instead of a gift. And slowly, reluctantly, Zara began to see that maybe, possibly the man sitting across from her had been fundamentally changed by his near-death experience. That crisis had done what her love couldn't. It had broken him down and rebuilt him into someone different. They agreed to a careful plan. In 2 weeks, Marcus would meet the twins. Just a quick introduction at a public park. Nothing heavy or emotional. Zara would prepare them ahead of time. Tell them that someone who knew them when they were babies but had to go away was coming to visit. They wouldn't use the word daddy. Not yet. Maybe never. That would be up to Amara and Aiden. As they finally left the coffee shop, evening shadows stretching long across the parking lot, Marcus stopped her with a gentle hand on her arm. "Zara," he said, "I need you to know something. I think you're the most incredible person I've ever met. The way you raised them alone, built a life for them, protected them from my mistakes. You're the strongest, bravest person I know. And I'm so profoundly sorry I made you have to be that strong alone." Zara looked at him. This man who'd once been her everything and then became her nothing. "I don't hate you anymore," she said honestly. "I did, for a very long time. But hate takes energy I needed for them, so I let it go. But I don't trust you either, Marcus. Trust is earned slowly and lost instantly. You have a very long way to go." "I understand," he said. "And I'm ready to walk that road for however long it takes." The next 2 weeks were agonizing. Zara rehearsed what she would tell the twins 100 different ways, practiced responses to questions they might ask, imagined every possible way the meeting could go wrong. She talked to her therapist, to Delilah, to her single mother support group. Everyone had opinions. Some thought she was crazy to let him back in after what he'd done. Others thought it was incredibly brave. In the end, Zara trusted her gut and her love for her children. She chose a Saturday morning, after breakfast when the twins were fed and happy. She sat them down on the couch. Their favorite cartoon paused mid-episode. "We need to have an important talk," she said gently, sitting between them and taking their small hands in hers. "Remember how you've been asking questions about your daddy?" 2 pairs of gray eyes, Marcus's eyes, looked up at her with sudden intense focus. "Yes," Amara said carefully, always the more cautious of the two when emotions were involved. "Well, your daddy had to go away when you were babies. He was very sick and he couldn't take care of you. But now he's better, and he'd like to meet you. If you want to meet him, that is." A long silence filled the room. Then Aiden frowned, his thoughtful expression so reminiscent of Marcus it made Zara's heart clench. "Is he nice?" he asked. "I think he's trying very hard to be," Zara said honestly. Amara bit her lip. Will he stay this time, or will he go away again? The question broke Zara's heart because she knew exactly where it came from. The twins had seen enough Disney movies, enough of their friends' family dynamics, to understand that daddy sometimes left. "I don't know, baby," she admitted. "But he wants to try. And I think we should give him a chance. But here's the important part." She squeezed both their hands. "If you meet him and you don't like him, you never have to see him again. And if you do like him, but he disappoints you, he's gone. You two are in charge of this, not me, not him. You. Okay?" The twins looked at each other, having one of their silent twin conversations that happened in glances and micro-expressions. Finally, Amara turned back to Zara. "Okay. We'll meet him. But if he's mean or boring, we're leaving." "Deal," Zara agreed. "And Aiden? What do you think?" "I want to meet him," Aiden said quietly. "I want to know why he went away." "That's fair," Zara said, pulling them both into a hug. "You can ask him anything you want, and whatever you feel is okay. You don't have to like him just because he's your daddy. You don't have to forgive him just because I'm giving him a chance. Your feelings are yours, and they're all valid." "Okay, Mommy," they said in unison, and then Amara asked if they could finish their cartoon. Crisis seemingly averted, at least for the moment. The morning of the meeting, Zara woke with her stomach in knots. She dressed the twins in their favorite outfits, Amara's purple dress with butterflies, and Aiden's shirt with dinosaurs. She braided Amara's curls, and made sure Aiden's shoes were tied correctly. She packed snacks and water and tried to calm her own racing heart. They arrived at the park 15 minutes early. It was a beautiful morning, warm but not hot, with a light breeze carrying the scent of cut grass and flowers. Other families were already there, kids on swings and slides, parents watching from benches. Normal life happening all around them while Zara's world teetered on the edge of massive change. Then she saw him. Marcus, standing near the entrance, pacing like a condemned man waiting for judgment. He was dressed simply in jeans and a button-down shirt, nothing fancy or intimidating. When he spotted them, he stopped moving entirely. His face went through a rapid series of emotions: wonder, pain, joy, fear, love. The naked vulnerability on his face made Zara's breath catch. She walked toward him slowly, holding tight to Amara and Aiden's hands. The twins were curious, but quiet, pressed close to their mother's sides, these two precious beings who held both their futures in their small hands. When they were a few feet away, Marcus crouched down to their level, making himself smaller, less intimidating. Up close, Zara could see he was trembling. "Hi," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Marcus. Your mom told me a lot of wonderful things about you both." Amara, always the braver one, stepped forward first. "I'm Amara, this is Aiden." "He's shy." "I'm not shy," Aiden protested immediately. "I'm careful. There's a difference." Marcus smiled, and a tear rolled down his cheek. "That's very smart. Being careful is good." His voice broke. "You both look exactly like I imagined. More beautiful than I imagined." "You're crying," Amara observed with the blunt honesty of a 5-year-old. "Are you sad?" "No, sweetie. I'm happy. Sometimes grown-ups cry when they're very, very happy. And meeting you two is the happiest moment of my life." They stood there for a moment, this strange new constellation of 3 people connected by blood, but strangers in every way that mattered. Then Zara gently guided them to a nearby bench. "Why don't we sit and talk for a bit?" she suggested. What followed was the most surreal 30 minutes of Zara's life. She sat slightly apart, close enough to intervene but far enough to let them interact. Marcus asked them gentle questions. "What do you like to do? What's your favorite color? Do you like school?" The twins answered with the natural openness of children who haven't yet learned to guard their hearts. Amara told him she loved to dance and wanted to be a ballerina, or maybe a doctor, or possibly a superhero. She hadn't decided yet. Aiden showed him a small toy dinosaur he'd brought from home and explained in elaborate detail about the Cretaceous period. Marcus listened like they were telling him the secrets of the universe, his eyes never leaving their faces, like he was trying to memorize every detail, every expression, every movement. Then Amara asked the question Zara had been dreading. "Why did you go away? Were you scared of us?" Marcus looked at Zara, asking permission. She nodded slightly. He turned back to the twins, and Zara saw him visibly gather his courage. "I was scared," he admitted, "but not of you. I was scared of being a daddy. I thought I wouldn't be good at it. So instead of trying, I ran away. And that was wrong. Very, very wrong. You two are perfect, and you deserved a daddy who would stay and try even if he was scared." "Our mommy stayed even though she was scared," Aiden said matter-of-factly. "She told us." "Your mommy is the bravest person I know," Marcus said, glancing at Zara with something like awe in his expression. "And you're right. She stayed and I ran. She was strong and I was weak. But I'm here now, and if you'll let me, I want to try to be the daddy you deserve." Amara studied him with those serious eyes. "Are you going to go away again?" And Marcus, to his credit, didn't make promises he couldn't guarantee. "I don't want to," he said honestly. "I want to stay and get to know you. But I understand if you don't trust me yet. Trust is something you earn. So maybe we could start by being friends. And if you decide you like me as a friend, maybe someday you'll want me to be your daddy." "I like that plan," Aiden said solemnly. "Friends first." "Okay," Amara agreed. "But we get to decide when you become our daddy." "Not you." "Deal," Marcus said, and held out his hand for a solemn shake. Both twins shook it, sealing their agreement with the seriousness of business executives closing a merger. The ice broken, the next 20 minutes were easier. Marcus pushed them on the swings when they asked, spotted them on the monkey bars, watched them go down the slide. Zara observed from her bench, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. This wasn't what she'd imagined all those years ago when she'd first seen the positive pregnancy test. But watching her children laugh with their father, watching Marcus's face light up every time they called his name, she felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe, possibly, the beginning of letting go of the anger that had sustained her for so long. As they prepared to leave, Amara suddenly asked, "Can we see you again?" Marcus looked at Zara. She nodded. "I'd love that," he said. "What if we meet here again next week? Same time?" "Okay." Both twins agreed. Then Amara did something that made both adults freeze. She walked up to Marcus and hugged him, just quickly, then darted back to Zara's side. Aiden followed suit, a brief squeeze before retreating to safety. Marcus stood there, tears streaming openly down his face now, looking completely undone by two simple hugs from two small children. "Thank you," he whispered. That night, after the twins were in bed, after she'd answered their million questions about Marcus and assured them it was okay to like him, Zara sat on her porch and cried. Not sad tears. Not happy tears exactly either. Just tears of release, of tension finally loosening, of stepping into unknown territory and surviving. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Thank you doesn't begin to cover it. They're incredible, Zara. You've done an amazing job raising them. I don't know how you did it alone, but I'm in awe of you. I promise I won't let them down." Zara didn't respond, but she didn't need to. Tomorrow was another day. There would be more meetings, more slowly building trust, more complicated navigation of this new reality. But tonight, she let herself feel something she hadn't allowed in 5 years. Hope. Not for a reunion with Marcus. That ship had sailed and sunk long ago. But hope that her children might get something she'd thought was lost forever. A father who actually showed up. The weekly park visits became routine over the next few months. Marcus never missed one, was always early, always prepared with appropriate activities. He learned their allergies, their quirks, the way Amara needed verbal processing and Aiden needed quiet thinking time. He brought coloring books and bubbles and never tried to buy their affection with expensive gifts. Smart, Zara thought. He was learning. By the 3rd month, the twins started calling him Marcus instead of that man or our friend. By the 4th month, they were excited to see him, running to greet him instead of hiding behind Zara. By the 5th month, Amara asked if Marcus could come to her dance recital. Zara hesitated but agreed. Marcus sat in the audience looking like he might burst with pride, recording every second on his phone, cheering louder than anyone when Amara took her bow. Then came the evening that changed things again. Zara had agreed to let Marcus take the twins for ice cream without her for the first time. Just an hour. Public place. Check-ins required. She spent the entire hour pacing her living room like a caged animal, checking her phone obsessively. When Marcus brought them home exactly on time, both twins talking over each other about the 3-scoop sundae they'd shared, Zara felt her shoulders finally relax. As the twins ran inside to tell Delilah about their adventure, Marcus lingered on the porch. "That went well," Zara said, surprised at the relief in her own voice. "They're easy to be with," Marcus said. "Once you get past being terrified, you'll somehow mess up and ruin everything." He smiled wryly. "Which I feel constantly, by the way. Every single interaction, I'm second-guessing myself." "Good," Zara said. "That means you're taking it seriously. The day you stop being nervous is the day I'll start worrying." Marcus nodded. "Fair." He shifted his weight. "Zara, can I ask you something? And you can absolutely say no." "What?" Zara felt her guard immediately go up. "Could I maybe take them for a whole afternoon soon? Like to the Children's Museum or the zoo? I know that's a big step, but I think we're ready. They're comfortable with me now. And I'd have them back by dinner. I'd text you constantly, whatever you need." Zara looked at this man who'd once been a stranger, then a lover, then an enemy, and was now something she had no name for. A co-parent? An acquaintance? Someone working toward earning back trust? "Let me think about it," she said finally. "Of course. No pressure." Marcus headed down the porch steps, then turned back. "Zara, they told me about their nightmares, about the monster under the bed. I told them I'd be happy to check under their beds next time if that would help." "I hope that was okay." It was okay, Zara said softly. Thank you for thinking of it. After he left, Zara sat down hard on her porch swing. He was winning her children over, not through money or gifts, but through presence, through showing up consistently, through caring about monsters under the bed and dance recitals and whether they preferred chocolate or vanilla ice cream. He was becoming what she'd once desperately needed him to be, a father, and she didn't know how to feel about that. The next day, Zara called her therapist. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, she said during the session. What if he leaves again? What if he gets scared, or his cancer comes back, or he decides this is too hard? I'm setting my kids up for heartbreak. Or, her therapist suggested gently, you're giving them a chance at having two parents who love them. You can't protect them from every possible hurt, Zara. You can only do your best with the information you have right now. And right now, Marcus is showing up. That's all you can ask for. But why now? Zara asked, the question that had haunted her for months finally voiced. Why is he capable of being this person now when he couldn't be 5 years ago? What changed? He nearly died, her therapist said simply. That changes people. It's not fair, and it doesn't excuse what he did. But transformation isn't about fairness. It's about whether the change is real. Only time will tell you that. So Zara gave Marcus the afternoon with the twins at the zoo. She sent them with sunscreen and snacks and strict instructions about checking in. Then she went home and stress cleaned her entire house, scrubbing until her hands hurt, channeling all her anxiety into making the grout sparkle. Marcus sent photos. The twins with giraffes. The twins in front of the elephant exhibit. The twins laughing as they fed lettuce to goats in the petting area. Each photo showed pure joy on their faces. At dinner time, he brought them home with a bag containing matching stuffed elephants and full bellies from the zoo cafeteria. We had the best day, Amara announced, dancing into the house. Marcus let us pet a real snake. It was squishy. And slimy, Aiden added. But cool. Zara looked at Marcus over their heads. Thank you, she mouthed. He nodded, understanding everything she wasn't saying. That she was trusting him. That trust was fragile. That he'd honored it today. The dynamic shifted after that. Marcus went from weekly visits to twice weekly, then 3 times a week. He'd pick them up from daycare sometimes so Zara could work late. He'd come to their kindergarten orientation and met their teachers. He learned their bedtime routine so well that when Zara got stuck at work one evening, he put them to bed himself, reading the exact books they required in the exact order, doing the voices they expected. When Zara got home that night and found him reading on her couch while the twins slept peacefully, something in her chest loosened even more. You didn't have to stay, she said. I wanted to make sure you got home okay, Marcus replied. And also, I needed to show you I could do bedtime successfully. Was I supposed to read Goodnight Moon with a British accent? Because Aiden insisted. Zara laughed, really laughed, for the first time in his presence since everything had fallen apart. Yes, she said. The moon only says goodnight properly in a British accent. Obviously. Obviously, Marcus echoed, smiling. Then more seriously, thank you, Zara, for giving me this chance. I know I don't deserve it. You're right, Zara said honestly. You don't. But they deserve a father who shows up, and so far you are. So keep doing that. I will, Marcus promised. I swear I will. Months passed. Seasons changed. The twins started kindergarten and Marcus was there for the first day, taking photos alongside Zara, both of them crying a little as Amara and Aiden bravely walked into their classroom. He came to the class Halloween party dressed as a dinosaur to match Aiden's costume. He volunteered to help build sets for Amara's school play. He integrated himself into their lives so seamlessly that sometimes Zara forgot he hadn't always been there, almost forgot. Because at night, alone, she still remembered the restaurant, the accusation, the check on her desk, the profound loneliness of the pregnancy and first years. She'd forgiven him intellectually, understood his transformation, appreciated his effort. But forgiveness of the heart was slower, more complicated. Then came the evening that forced everything to a head. It was a school night, unexpected, when Marcus called her. "Zara, I need to tell you something. Can I come over after the twins are in bed?" The serious tone scared her. "Is something wrong? Is the cancer back?" "No, nothing like that. But it's important." He arrived at 8, looking nervous in a way she hadn't seen since their first meeting. They sat on her porch, the place they seemed to have their most honest conversations. "What is it?" Zara asked. Marcus took a deep breath. "The twins called me Daddy today. Both of them. Aiden first, then Amara. They just started using it like it was the most natural thing in the world." Zara felt her heart stutter. "Oh," she said softly. "I told them that I'm honored, but they should check with you first. That you get to decide if that's okay. You told them I get to decide if you're their father." Zara shook her head. "Marcus, I don't get to decide that. They do. If they want to call you Daddy, if they feel like you're their daddy, then you are." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "Really? Really? You've shown up every day for almost a year. You've proven you're not going anywhere. They trust you now. They love you. You're their father." She paused. "I need you to understand what that means, though. It's not just the fun stuff. It's the hard stuff, too. Discipline and tough conversations and being there when things are boring or difficult." "I know," Marcus said. "And I'm ready. I want all of it." He hesitated. "There's more. I want to talk to you about custody arrangements. Legal ones. I want to be on their birth certificates. I want to pay child support, retroactive support for the years I missed. I want them to have my health insurance. I want to be their father legally, not just in practice." Zara hadn't expected this. "Why now?" "Because I want you to have security," Marcus explained. "I want there to be legal protections in place so that if anything happens to me, you and the twins are taken care of. I also want to start a college fund for them. And I want to be listed as their father officially because that's what I am. I should have been from the beginning, and I can't change that. But I can make it right going forward." "And if you decide this is too hard?" Zara asked, the fear finally voiced. "If you meet someone else, or your priorities change, or you get scared again?" "I won't," Marcus said firmly. "But if I did, if I somehow became that person again, the legal agreements would protect them. You'd have full custody, guaranteed support, everything documented. I'm not asking to take them from you, Zara. I'm asking to officially become a co-parent with all the responsibilities that entails." They talked through details for hours. What shared custody might look like, financial arrangements, how to modify the birth certificates. Marcus had clearly thought through every angle, had consulted lawyers, had plans and proposals. He wasn't winging this. He was treating it with the seriousness it deserved. Finally, exhausted, Zara agreed to think about it. Marcus left, and she sat on her porch swing trying to process. He wanted legal rights, legal responsibilities. He wanted to be bound to the twins in ways that couldn't be easily undone. It was what she'd wanted 5 years ago. What she'd begged for, in a way, when she'd told him he was going to be a father. And now here he was, asking for exactly that. She called Delilah, her constant source of wisdom. "What do I do?" she asked. "Do you think he's changed?" Delilah asked. "Really, truly changed?" "Yes," Zara admitted. "I think he has. I think almost dying broke him open and forced him to become someone different, someone better. Then you already know the answer, sweetheart. Those babies deserve a father who's all in, and it sounds like he's finally ready to be that person." So Zara agreed. They met with lawyers, drew up agreements that protected everyone, modified birth certificates to include Marcus's name. They created a custody arrangement that was flexible, but structured. The twins would primarily live with Zara, but Marcus would have them 2 evenings a week and every other weekend. School breaks would be shared. Decisions about education and health would be made jointly. It took 3 months to finalize everything. And on the day Marcus's name was officially added to the birth certificates, he called Zara crying. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for letting me be their father for real. Just keep showing up, Zara said. That's all they need. Just keep showing up. And he did. Through kindergarten and into first grade. Through soccer tryouts and piano lessons. Through stomach bugs and broken arms and nightmares. He showed up consistently, reliably, becoming as much a fixture in their lives as Zara herself. The twins flourished with two parents who loved them, who co-parented effectively despite their complicated history. But there was still distance between Zara and Marcus. They were friendly, polite, effective co-parents. But there was a wall between them built from old hurt that neither seemed ready to tear down. They didn't talk about the past beyond what was necessary. They didn't talk about feelings. They focused on the twins and kept everything else carefully contained. Until Amara got sick. It happened fast. One day she was fine. The next, she had a fever that wouldn't break. 3 days later, she was in the hospital with pneumonia, struggling to breathe, hooked up to monitors, and oxygen. Zara sat by her bedside, holding her small hand, terrified out of her mind. Aiden was with Delilah, too young to visit the ICU. Marcus arrived within an hour of Zara's call. He didn't ask permission, didn't wait for an invitation. He just showed up and pulled a second chair next to Zara's at Amara's bedside. "She's going to be okay," he said, as much to convince himself as Zara. "You don't know that," Zara whispered, her voice raw from crying. "She's so small, Marcus. What if the antibiotics don't work? What if—" "Don't," Marcus interrupted gently. "Don't go there. She's strong. Like her mother. She's going to fight this and win." They sat together for 2 days as Amara battled the infection. They took turns sleeping, eating, keeping vigil. They read to her when she was awake, held her hand when she slept fitfully. And in those long, terrifying hours, something changed between them. The wall crumbled. They talked about everything. About the past. About the hurt. About what could have been different. "I'm so sorry," Marcus said during the dark hours of the second night while Amara slept fitfully. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there for the hard parts before. That you had to do this alone. I'm sorry I was so angry for so long," Zara admitted. "I know you've changed. I know you're not that person anymore. But I kept holding on to the hurt because it felt safer than letting go and risking being hurt again." "You have every right to hold on to it," Marcus said. "What I did was unforgivable." "But you asked for forgiveness anyway," Zara said. "And you earned it by showing up. I need to actually let myself forgive you. Really forgive you. Not just intellectually, but in my heart." She looked at their daughter, small and fragile in the hospital bed. "Life's too short to carry grudges. What if something happened and I never told you that I've forgiven you? That I've been forgiven you?" Marcus reached across the space between their chairs and took Zara's hand. She didn't pull away. They sat there, hands clasped, watching their daughter breathe, and for the first time in 6 years, Zara felt at peace with Marcus Whitfield. Amara turned a corner on the 3rd day. The fever broke, her breathing eased, and the doctors declared her out of danger. She'd need another few days in the hospital and weeks to fully recover, but she was going to be fine. Zara and Marcus both cried with relief, hugging each other without thinking about boundaries or complicated history. When Amara was finally released, weak but recovering, Marcus insisted on helping. He brought soup. He entertained Aiden so Zara could focus on Amara's recovery. He stayed late making sure everyone was okay, then went home to his own apartment. But the dynamic had fundamentally shifted. They'd been through a crisis together and survived. The last walls between them had finally come down. Months passed. The twins thrived in first grade. Amara fully recovered. Life returned to their new normal of shared custody and co-parenting. But Zara noticed something else too. The way Marcus looked at her sometimes when he thought she wasn't watching. The way he lingered at drop-offs and pickups. The way his hand would brush hers accidentally, and neither of them would pull away immediately. One evening, after he'd helped put the twins to bed at her house, Marcus asked if they could talk. Again, Zara thought, more important conversations on this porch. But she nodded and sat down beside him. "I need to be honest with you about something," Marcus began. "And you can tell me to shut up and never mention it again if you want. But I need to say it." "Okay," Zara said cautiously. "I'm still in love with you. Marcus said it simply, without drama. I know I have no right to be. I know what I destroyed. But working with you to raise the twins, seeing the kind of mother and woman you are, I've fallen in love with you all over again. And I needed you to know. I'm not asking you to feel the same way. I'm not asking you to give me another chance romantically. I just needed to be honest. Zara sat in silence for a long moment, processing. Finally, she said, I don't know how I feel. About you, about us, about anything beyond the twins. You hurt me so badly, Marcus. And yes, you've proven you've changed. Yes, I've forgiven you. But trust in a romantic sense? That's different from trust as a co-parent. I know, Marcus said. And I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know where I stand. They sat together in comfortable silence until Marcus went home. And Zara lay in bed that night thinking about love and second chances, and whether some betrayals could truly be overcome. She didn't have answers. But for the first time, she was willing to ask the questions. Time continued its steady march. The twins turned 6, then 7. They were thriving, happy children secure in the love of both parents. Marcus and Zara attended school functions together, celebrated holidays together, made big decisions together. To outside observers, they looked like an unusual but functional family unit. But inside, things were shifting. Zara found herself noticing Marcus more. The way he was endlessly patient with the twins. The way he'd grown into fatherhood like he'd been born for it. The way he looked at her sometimes with longing, but never pushed, never demanded. He'd told her he loved her, and then stepped back, giving her space, letting her process at her own speed. One evening, watching Marcus teach Aiden how to ride a bike, seeing his face light up when Aiden finally pedaled on his own, something clicked in Zara's chest. This man, this imperfect, flawed, redeemed man, loved their children fiercely. And he loved her, not the way he had before, with selfish desperation, but with mature, patient, earned love. The kind of love that shows up and stays. She walked over to where he stood, cheering as Aiden circled around. That night, after the twins were in bed, she asked him to stay. Not to talk about schedules or school activities, just to stay. Are you sure? Marcus asked, uncertainty in his eyes. No, Zara admitted. I'm not sure about anything except that I want to figure this out, whatever this is, if there's anything left between us beyond the twins. But slowly. Very, very slowly. Slow is perfect, Marcus said. I've got the rest of my life. I'm not in a hurry. And so they began again. Not as the people they'd been, young and reckless and untempered by life, but as parents first, who were carefully, tentatively exploring whether they could be partners again, too. They went on dates, actual dates without the twins. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. They learned each other again. These new versions of themselves that crisis and time had created. It wasn't smooth. There were arguments, moments where old hurts surfaced, times when Zara pulled back terrified of being hurt again. But Marcus stayed steady. He weathered her fears, her anger, her hesitation. He proved again and again that he wasn't going anywhere, that his love was patient and enduring. 6 months after that first new date, Zara realized she was in love with him again. Not the desperate, all-consuming love of their first time, but something deeper, more grounded. Love built on respect and partnership and shared struggle. Love that had survived the worst and come out stronger. The twins noticed, of course. Nothing got past them. Are you and Daddy dating? Amara asked bluntly one morning. Would that be okay with you? Zara asked. Amara and Aiden exchanged one of their looks. It would be weird, Aiden said. But good weird, like when you mix chocolate and peanut butter for the first time. Unexpected but right. Zara laughed. That's a very specific analogy. I want a sister, Amara announced. So if you and Daddy get married, can we have a baby sister? Slow down, Zara said, her cheeks heating. We're just dating, one step at a time. But over the next year, those steps added up. Marcus essentially moved in, spending more nights at Zara's house than his apartment. They blended their lives in ways that felt natural, organic. They parented together, lived together, loved together. And when Marcus finally proposed, kneeling in their backyard with the twins holding signs that said, "Will you marry our daddy?" Zara said yes without hesitation. They married small and simple, just family and close friends. The twins stood with them as Zara and Marcus exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Marcus promised to show up every day, to love her through the hard times and the good, to never run again. Zara promised to trust, to forgive, to build a future together that honored their past, but wasn't defined by it. As they kissed, pronounced husband and wife, the twins cheered loudly. "We're a real family now," Amara declared with satisfaction. "We've always been a real family," Marcus corrected gently, "but now it's official." That night, after the celebration, after the twins were finally asleep in their beds, Zara and Marcus sat on their porch, wedding clothes rumpled, both exhausted and happy. "Can you believe we actually did it?" Zara asked. "After everything, we're actually here." "I almost ruined this," Marcus said quietly. "I almost threw away the best thing that ever happened to me because I was scared." "But you came back," Zara reminded him. "You found your courage. And look what we built from the ashes. We have 2 incredible children and a second chance very few people get." "I won't waste it," Marcus promised. "Not a single day of it." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching fireflies begin their nightly dance. Inside, their children slept peacefully, secure in the knowledge that both parents loved them, that their family was solid and real. Outside, 2 people who'd been broken and lost had found their way back to each other and built something stronger than before. It wasn't a fairy tale. Fairy tales don't include restaurants where trap gets weaponized, or 5 years of absence, or the hard work of rebuilding trust. But it was real. It was theirs. And sometimes, Zara thought, real love stories are better than fairy tales because they're earned through fire and survive anyway. Years later, when Amara and Aiden were teenagers and asking about how their parents met, Marcus and Zara told them the truth. All of it. The good, the bad, the terrible mistakes. They explained how people can change, how second chances are real but must be earned, how love sometimes dies and sometimes transforms into something stronger. And when the twins asked if they regretted anything, Marcus said, "I regret that I wasn't there from the beginning, but I'm grateful for every day I've had since. Your mom gave me a gift I didn't deserve, a chance to be your father and her partner. I've spent every day trying to be worthy of that gift." Zara added, "I regret the pain we all went through, but I don't regret where we ended up. Sometimes the hardest journeys lead to the most beautiful destinations." The twins, wise beyond their years, seemed to understand. And later that night, as Zara lay in bed next to Marcus, their children safe in rooms down the hall, she reflected on the improbable journey that had brought them here. From accusation to abandonment, to redemption to love. It shouldn't have worked. By all rights, Marcus showing up after 5 years should have been too late. But sometimes, Zara thought, people really do change. Sometimes second chances are real. Sometimes the story you think is over is actually just beginning. She rolled over and looked at Marcus, this man who'd been so many things to her. Stranger, lover, enemy, co-parent, partner, husband, father to their children. He opened his eyes and smiled at her in the darkness. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "Everything," Zara said. "How we got here. How improbable this all is. How I'm glad you came back even though I hated you for leaving." "I'm glad I came back too," Marcus said, "even though it took almost dying to wake me up." He pulled her closer. "I love you, Zara. I loved you then, I love you now, and I'll love you until I die. For real this time." "I know," Zara said, "and I love you too. Finally, completely, without reservation. I love you too." And in the house they'd built together, with children they'd created and nearly lost and ultimately raised together, Zara and Marcus slept. Not perfectly, not without scars, but together. And that, they'd learned, was what mattered most. Not how the story started, but that they'd fought to write an ending worth having. Outside, the moon shone on Portland. Inside, A family slept. And somewhere in the universe, Grace smiled. Because even the worst mistakes, when met with genuine change and endless patience, can sometimes be redeemed. Not erased, not forgotten, but transformed into something that honors both the pain and the possibility of love's second chance. What did you think of Zara and Marcus's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to follow all our stories. And be sure to check out more emotional stories by clicking right here on the final screen.